A lot of people, when they teach plot, they utilize what they refer to as the mountain analogy. This thing, I don't use the mountain because I found a couple things. Number one, that puts the climax in the middle of the text. And I don't know about you, but the climax isn't in the middle. It's very near the end. I think this implies some kind of symmetry, and climax is in the middle. There is way more on the front end. It's much more like a roller coaster ride. So when we're reading a picture book or we're reading a short story, we're identifying the characters. What do we know about the main characters and the main setting? Just give me keywords and phrases. And then here, this little corner, this little crevice right here, boom, that's the problem. That's the conflict. That's the wish, the want, that's the conflict. What's the problem? And then rising action is easier. If they don't know the conflict, rising action is hard because they're not going to write down everything that happens. Rising action is what makes the problem worse, harder, further away. So they have to know the conflict. So, all right, now this is the conflict. This is the wish or want. This is the problem. What makes the problem worse or harder or unattainable? What's all happening? All of that becomes rising action. I have discovered kids are really good with the beginning and they're really good with the end. It's everything in between I lose them on. Well, the secret is conflict. They got to know conflict. What was the problem? Then rising action is anything making the problem worse. This is when the problem comes to a head. And for some kids, they can't tell you the climax until they get past the climax. And then they're like, oh, that was the climax. When things start to fall or get resolved from there. I don't agree. I don't subscribe to the theory that climax is a sentence, that you can put your finger on the climax. In a chapter book or a novel, I think the climax could be a chapter. I think it's a paragraph in most texts. That's the climax, not this sentence. That paragraph is the climax. In my little roller coaster analogy, we have the straightaway when you get on the roller coaster ride. That's the straightaway of character and setting. And then the first time the first car clicks up the ramp, there it is. That's the conflict. That's when the butterflies in the belly really get going. And then click, 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 it's getting worse. And the whole time you're thinking, why am I on this ride? What am I doing to myself? The climax begins when you get to the top of the roller coaster ride and stop. Climax begins. And then you start to go, but you have that little hang time, you're still in climax. And then you go, and that's when climax ends. I think it's like 12 seconds long. I don't think it's a sentence. I don't think it's this moment. I don't think there's an answer. It's all of this. It's when all of this comes to a head. That's the climax. At least that's my theory of climax. And then it falls from there. How does that problem, that moment, come together or fall out from there? That's where I'm going. I don't teach mountain, I teach roller coaster ride.